Good day and welcome back to the Student StarCraft AI tournament. We've got another week of nice games for you and let's see what they're going to bring us. First off, one of the games which has been recommended to me is of course this game by Brian Weber and Hannes Berg. Of course these two new developers have been going at it steadily, and if a game has been recommended usually there is something to show, so let's find out what that is. And while the game is heating up, let's have a small peek at the rankings of the last couple of weeks. As we can see, this blue line over here is Crazio plummeting precipitously after disabling it before the tournament started. Now coming back up again, and it's been in a clear position of dominance with Iron Bot eking out TSMU. And then we have, of course, Killerbot, TSMU Terra, Neo Edmundser, Chris Cokes, Willybot, and Cherry Pie has been dropping a bit, and mainly that has been because it's been voted against opponents which can handily beat it. And Purple Wave advancing, Microwave working hard but not really showing, and then we've got Thomas Vida and Beriva, which haven't been updated in ages, well, ages and ages, but they are still in there. Then Eric Hammer, Protoss, Team Hammer, Martin Royagers, and Antigua, and then the rest. So still Crazio out there with about 100 ELO points up on its opponent, and it doesn't look like it's going to change very quickly. We are still waiting for an update of Cherry Pie and of course the return of McGrave. That is something which will bring some competition back to the stage. And this game we've got Brian Weber playing Zerg, going for a 10 pool with gas, and of course the expansion. The same can be said for Hannes Berg. Has got a couple of more workers, but then again some of the workers are involved in construction, so they are not all available to mine. Now going for a barracks, and this looks like it's going to be another barracks. Quick, sunken, nicely placed. The Lings are going over to this base to do God knows what. But this looks like a safe-ish setup. These might have been a little bit closer together, but then again, what do you know? And I really wonder what these Lings are up to. Now they're going to engage the enemy, and the enemy has got only a handful of Marines. More are coming, of course, so that may be interesting. The Lings are being engaged head-on, and again, so many Lings, that's really not the wisest choice you can make. That's really a lot of Lings by Brian Weber, 22 Lings by the looks of it, but their behavior is sort of messed up, and they are flapping about, running around, and not really doing anything. And Berg is just doing, oh, it's got a medic now, so that will be good. Of course, was good. It's a really suboptimal medic movement. Depot in the natural at the bottom of the choke, and looks like it's going to be another one. All nice and dandy, but what's Berg going to face? Because Weber is, by the looks of it, just going for Sunkens and Zerglings. We've got 15 supply, that means 30 Zerglings, and the 18 supply of Berg is all in Marines. Oh, we've got one medic which is not now moved into the enemy Zergling ranks. Have we got any kind of tech coming up? No, we've got lots of gas by Weber. Oh, and some gas is being spent, so that's good. And on what, you may ask? Oh, we've got a Hydra Den in an interesting place, and now the Marines are advancing, but they can't really do too much against so many Lings, and of course the Sunkens. Now we've got one medic, and the medic is now actually healing, so that's good. And Weber has got a Hydra Den, which means Hydras. And I'm going to have a small peek. No, we've only got Stim, +1, finishing, speed, and no lurker aspect. So that will be interesting to see how that's going to pan out. If you hear me cough every once in a while, I'm still recovering from the Dutch flu, which has really been breaking my... well, I'm not that old, but it's certainly looks like I'm getting older. And Marines are now breaking through all the Zerglings, but the Sunkens is another thing entirely. And without the medic, and the medic, if it is there, it's just going to die. Ooh, and one Sunken! No, the Sunken just lives and will now regenerate some HP. Lurker coming, no lurkers, and one drone is going to move out, but that's really not the right path to take. So, looks like another hatchery, and the Hybrid Den will be rebuilt in exactly the same spot. And that is something I could not really recommend, because it's torn down immediately by these Marines again. A Sunken falls as well, but then again the Sunkens in the back have got things right under control. And finally the drone has been able to move out, despite the continuous Marine pressure. Let's see what's happening in the base of Berg. We have got a starport, academy, barracks all flashing. Oh, we've got ghosts already, oh god. Yeah, you know what this is. A science facility and the covert ops in not really inconspicuous location. And this must then be the comsat or the silo. I think the silo, because it's built rather slowly. Yep, there we go. So we will be seeing some nukes. And Zerg can't really get out. Have we got Lurker? Yeah, Lurker is prepping. So that's always a good idea. And now I saw a drone being ferried out, but no, doesn't look like it. It's headed back. And these drones really can't get anything done. Oh, the base has been under attack, but now the Ling and Hydra armies are mopping up the remnants of the Terran army, which stands only 19 supply tall, and that's mainly in ghosts. And the Lings are really having a field day. Would have had a field day if they had some reinforcements. First Lurker egg coming up. Oh, and the Lurker in the rear. That's always good to have a couple of Lurkers in the rear. Oh, and it gets a nuke placed on its nose immediately. Unfortunately, the ghost dies, so the nuke doesn't really come off. Oh, and this Lurker is really... oh dear, 2 Lurkers and a bridge full of Stind. Oh, the Lurkers come up for no good reason and they die. Oh, scan goes off, 1-2 Lurker dies. Oh god. This is not good. So silo flashing, another silo flashing, another silo being built, and if this command center is done, I'm sure we are going to see another silo. So lots and lots of nuclear silos coming up, and the Zerg fighting discipline is really beyond anything I'm able to describe with kind words. But occasionally they do beat the Terran army back, which with Lurkers and Zerglings they might as well do, but the Lurkers don't really get too close to the Terran army, and they haven't been able to get off too many spines, so... oh, that was a nice one. I really would like this opened up BW replay viewer to have some kind of nuclear warning, nuclear launch detected kind of thing, where I can center on it, because right now I don't get any warning at all, and I just have to keep an eye on the minimap and try to do things that way. I'll just keep an eye on the main Terran army, and perhaps I can have... okay, there is one nuke, and every time it goes off, or one nuke goes off, I will try to find where it is. Okay, one got lost for reasons... and that's just really hard to watch, and these Lurkers are so stupid. If they just kept their heads down, these Marines wouldn't get anything done ever again. And now lots of Marines and Ghosts coming up. But with the Overlord and the Lurkers, it must be kind of hard to correctly place a nuke. And this is a veritable Lurker field. And yep, as a Ghost with only 1 sliver of HP left, you're not going to get anything done there, are you? And this is going to be a little bit of a war of attrition. I have got 3 games of Hannes Berg, but I think after this one I'll just keep it to this one, because it's really hard to keep track of where the nukes are, and that's not... oh, we've got one here. Unfortunately, there is nothing at all to kill, so that doesn't really work, and I think perhaps either take... ooh, these Lurkers are really doing the numbers on these Marines. A couple of them die eventually, but it's okay. So we've got 4 nukes. And this Lurker thing with the Sunkers is really stopping all the Terran advances right in its track, but by now the entire map is coloring purple. And the Ghosts really can't get anything done here in this natural choke because of all the Overlords and the Lurkers. Oh god, look at all the Lurkers, they're just really deadly. And of course the Lurkers do take a lot of damage, and it's 3-4 bases versus the map. But then again, we've still got 5 nukes, and Terran doesn't really find a window to let one off. And the Lurker count is increasing so much, but the Lurker micro is also pretty bad, so every time they are unburrowed, they sort of die. And Berg, well, is lucky he's not up facing a Terran with Swarm, because otherwise it would be in a real bunch of trouble. And we've got all kinds of bloody exchanges between Pure Lurker and Marine Medic Ghost, and that's not really... It's not really the best, is it? So... oh god, the kill count for this game must have been astounding, because all these Marines... As you can see, we've got 4 barracks here, we've got 1 there, we've got, oh, nothing here. Oh, that's unfortunate. But there is just so much being produced all the time. And the Lurkers now, how many Lurkers have we got? We've got 11 Lurkers versus 30 Marines. And the Lurkers are now actually advancing upon the Terran base. But now they're retreating again. And there are also so many scans that it doesn't really matter at this point how many Lurkers there are. There's Marines coming from every which way. The Ghosts having problems with nuking things because there are so many overlords in the choke. And the production tab looks like this for Berg. I knew it would be like this a bit, so I thought, well, let's show it. And now Brian Weber has got this army of 73 together. And Berg's got an army of 100. Oh, that was a nuke, but... Oh, poor Marines. And the poor Zerglings, of course, but that's the other end of the stick. The Zerg... Oh god, I missed that. And that's just so hard to... okay, so we're going to keep a lookout for nukes in this general area. Because if there is a large conglomeration of units, Berg will nuke there as well. Let's see... Yeah, here it is. Here it is, and the Zerg army is right of the way. Oh, we've got a drone. A drone got sniped, that's very good. And this Lurker with the Zergling's help is really doing a number on everything. Terran, that's really terrible. Well, for Terran at least, for Zerg it's pretty good. And, oh, we've got another nuke at the bridges, and I think that's a decent choice. And yeah, and the retreat catches a lot of Lurkers and Zerglings, so now Terran can advance, but it does so right over the Lurkers, and oh well, that's not going too badly actually. And now Terran is on the advance again, and this Lurker isn't really done yet, so can't really get too many kills. And we've got Lurkers here, we've got 2 there, and it looks like Berg is running out of spines and all these Marines are being killed over here. The Lurkers here, well, only 1 left, and it's doing a lot of damage, but in the end I think the pressure is going to be too great, especially if a drone is trying to reach the main base for reasons, and that's a lot of spores, wow, astounding. But overall, Hannes Berg's army is really puny, and Zerg is nearly doubling it now, so if a decent push might land at one of the big bases of Berg, it's... Oh, that was nearly half the HP of a spore colony. So you can see if this Zerg... Oh, God! I wish I'd get a warning for that. So something is going to hit here eventually. Perhaps there's a lot of Lurkers. Yeah, there we go. Here goes the first one, and the spore gets a little bit of damage. And now there is going to be a nuke here. Okay, so that was really awesome. Lots of damage being done, but then again, it's a bit of a... this match is a bit of a mess, because neither player can't really get too much done. It's all... Oh, there was another nuke somewhere in the middle of the map. I'm going to speed it up just a notch, because as interesting as nukes are, and these ghost trains of 30 ghosts are really impressive. Zerg is... Ooh, that was a nice one. Zerg is now keeling over because it's running out of money. The minerals in the main and the net are gone, and these are the only minerals. So that's the GG. The invincible ghost train is mopping everything up, and Berg is approaching max with a couple of nukes. Will we have more nukes? Yeah, oh, the Zergling gets one straight on the nose, and I wonder how it could have gotten itself into this tangle, but it's... oh well. There we are in the Diablo soundtrack again, sorry about that. And let me put that on loop, because that was really... okay, so we've got another game of Berg, let's skip that. Let's call the GG on this one. And hop into the next game, which will be Purple Swarm versus Microwave. Microwave has been working hard, And, well, Dan has been working hard on Purple Swarm as well, so let's see how it's going to pan out. We have got a 9 hatch, or 9 expansion, and at the other end we've got a 9 pool. So, rather aggressive by Purple Swarm and standard for Microwave, but of course you can get away with countering 9 pool if you go 9 hatch, 9 pool again. And then of course with the defender's advantage you'll be in the lead, and Microwave is sitting at home with all its Zerglings, so that's not really working all that well, I figure. And you can see these Ling armies are rather equal, and Microwave is even 1 worker up, but as there are more larvae for Purple Swarm. Oh, that's pretty cute, look at that, that's a double concave with some spacing in between and only the... oh, there we go. So now Purple Swarm has got the Ling Edge. Have we got any upgrades? Yep, speed for both players. And Microwave, I really can't see what it's doing. It's going for a very quick lair. And of course Purple Wave can't really do that. Still on 8 workers, committed into a large number of Lings. But I dare say with that Sunken, and of course the Spire will be nearly done, I think that Microwave can hold this. Don't know if it's wise to pull the workers yet at this stage. Well, it should have. And now the Lings are all over the Sunken colony. But with the workers, perhaps Microwave might still hold. And the Lings in the last minute, they, oh, 2 of them were badly damaged. And now we've got 2 Muters. But they are sitting at home, and Microwave is being very passive. And with only 4 versus 9 workers, 3rd base up already, it's not going to go well. And you can see again the workers being pulled despite there being Muters, and these Muters could really be a little bit more aggressive and mop up the Lings before they reach the workers. Yep, there they go, that's more like it. And even though there are only 2, they can do quite well. The question is, when will we see a lair from Purple Swarm? And Purple Swarm is doing the 9 worker 3 base build for reasons, and that just looks like a lot of workers. Microwave rebuilding workers and should be rebuilding or continuing the build of its air fleet as well. Yep, there we go, another Muter, and it's got quite a bit of gas stacked. So nice balancing on the workers, all sent to mine minerals, and I think that's the right decision. And these 2 Muters have got the 3rd base correctly pacified. Not really many workers to be built in the natural and main base. Another Sunken, I think that's a wise decision, and another one. So with 2 Sunkens, and now how many have we got? We've got 3 Muters, I think. It's a bit of a mess with Muters killing Zerglings all over the place. And this is going to be a rather strong wave of Zerglings. But there is a 4th Sunken about to be done, and if 1 or 2 Muters do pop up here and stop killing the 3rd hatchery, Microwave might be in a good position. Otherwise it will be in a little bit of peril, because that is a lot of Zerglings. And that's all workers. The workers are coming off the line, but ideally you would not like to fight Zerglings with workers. And even though you've got 3 Sunkens, the Sunkens hold and the Muter pops out right after all the Zerglings are killed. So army supply wise, we've got 4 Muters now, the 3rd hatchery is dead, and the target selection by Microwave is really something. Going after buildings, going after overlords, meanwhile letting the Zerglings nearly overrun its main base. So there you go, but the worker count for Microwave is okay now, and both players are on equal army supply. Of course, the Zerglings of Purple Swarm won't really do too much versus Microwave Muters, but then again, what do you know? So any more upgrades? No. What are we seeing? Oh, another hatch for Microwave, that's good. And I think it's the right assessment at this stage not to expand, because there are really a lot of Lings out there. And the natural's now being pacified. Of course, if you have Overlord vision over the enemy main and you know where all the workers are, it might be better to send... oh god, all the workers come off the line, fighting beyond the range of the Sunkens. And that's really not too good. And Microwave being reset to 4 workers again, now 5, going for some upgrades because it's going for gas, and now has got the extra hatchery, which will be good. But if you have got vision of the enemy and you have got 6 overlords, 6 Muters, send 1 or 2 over, kill all the workers, and that's really well, scouting based target selection, I would say. That could really come in handy, and 1 or 2 more Sunkens might not really hurt, because the 3rd will be operational again soon. And will we have another muter? No, we won't. It's going for microwaves, going for lings and suiciding them into the superior number. So again, the workers coming off the line, lots of workers dying. And of course, oh, now all the muters come back, but that's really going to devolve into an ugly kind of game. Because if the third's operational and with a large batch of lings, oh, and now the muters head straight into the main, kill all the workers, and surely this must be the game, because Purple Swarm hasn't got any money anymore. And microwave with 2 hatches, lots of workers, and no enemy forces anymore to oppose it, is going to town on the last buildings of Purple Swarm. So that's the GG. Nice defensive action by Microwave. Purple Swarm has got some work to be done, but then again, that could be expected if you start up a whole new, or it wouldn't be a whole new bot, but a new race. That's not easy and will require a significant amount of time to get it just perfect. Now, Gia Bot versus Antigua, and Antigua has been updated as well, so I thought, well, let's have a look. First Zealot being sent over, and that looks like a 11 pool 11 hatch. That's pretty late. And we've got why haven't I'm not hearing anything. Sorry. The question is, why am I not hearing anything? Strange. Let's reload that, because I would like to hear the sound of Zealots smashing. Okay, well, this doesn't really work. Oh yeah, there we go. Ah, we got sound again, so that's absolutely splendid. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there we go. That is, for Zerg's part, it's a 9 hatch and then a 10 pool. Nicely done. It's okay for Zealot coming out, and this time we will hear it smash at the hatch. And then it's time to tune down the volume a little bit. The Zerglings bring back the Zealot, but one goes off on a wild tangent, and the Zealot lives with only minor shield damage, but more lings coming up now. And Gia Bot with 14 workers looks to be in a good position. Lair's already started, and with these Zerglings, and of course the Sunken, it should be in an okay position to hold off the enemy advance. The enemy advance has only been supported by 1 gateway, so that might take a while before that's done. 3 more gateways are coming up, and the worker numbers with 23 are okay. First Sunken up, second Sunken started, and even though there are 2 Zealots and a Goon, that should be okay. So Lair finished, and the question is what Gia going to do worker-wise. Really racking up the work, really really producing a lot of workers. Got 20 now for a Zerg and 2 base, that's quite a lot. And these 2 or 3 muters really have to work it out for them versus all these goons. These goons are pretty good, but with together with what are they called again, with the Zealots and the Sunkens, I think that Zerg can hold for a bit, especially since Protoss is just on 1 base and hasn't really got any kind of tech coming up. So this will be a 1 base aggression, and once these mutant numbers are getting out of control, and you can see they are being cycled here. The badly damaged ones are sitting over the hatchery, and the full health ones, or the moderate health ones, are... oh, they're nearly one-shotting these goons. Oh, look at that damage. That's pretty good micro by Gia Bot, and I could only wish that more Zergs would play their muter cards like this. These goons are getting pretty low, and now the badly damaged muters being cycled again. Third base for Gia would not be amiss. Right now 23 workers, a couple of muters being sent home for regeneration purposes. And I think that is a good decision. Have we got any upgrades coming? Yep, we've got +1 air weapons. And now in range of the Sunkens with the Zerglings and the muters, Gia Bot is in a good position. This drone though is rather stupid and pays the price. And again, that's really Gia Bot. Siege Shu might come back and update some kind of a safe pathway kind of strategy that it may determine where it is safe to send a worker to get another base planted down. Naturals up for Antigua, but by now there are so many mutas and more are coming back, having regenerated some of their hit points. And if they would just stick to one target, and it looks like they do, look at the damage these mutas are doing, and a third has now been started for Gia Bot. That's good. +1 will be finished momentarily, +1 armor is started too. So now the naturals all up for grabs, and this target selection of Gia Bots I like a lot better. Going through all the combat units first, then the workers, and only then the buildings, which is pretty good. And now are going to town on the main. There is only 2 more cannons and a handful of goons, and the eco damage being done to Antigua is quite incredible. The third by now is up. And the mutas, well, the mutas are somewhat damaged, but it's not too bad. +1 Ling damage is getting... Where is that stupid worker going? I can't really think what it could be doing over here. Now the mutas are going straight after these cannons, really leaving the couple of goons to the couple of zerglings. And of course, when the cannons are down, the workers are up for grabs, and this target selection of Gia Bot is really, really good. So if Shusuja would come back to update his bot, there is so much potential there. And of course, that third place at CIG in Korea last year was by no means a fluke. It has got the potential to do really marvelous things, and Antigua has got a lot of work to be done. 3rd base up, 4th base up, and what you can't produce in mutas with your gas, you just put in zerglings. Production tab looking very healthy, Queen's Nest coming up as well, lots of zerglings, and have we got... oh no, we haven't got a hive yet, do I don't think, no. Okay, so that's the game. Game's ending here. Antigua GG's out. And, well, this is one of the games I would show you, because if we have another peek at the score table, we've got with 2,411 ELO points, we've got Crazio 2,322 Ironbot, and then right behind that we've got TSMU Random, and then Killerbot, TSMU Terran, and the rest. So what is it that TSMU Random can do to Crazio or to the other top bots that makes it very good? TSMU Random roll here as a Protoss, and Crazio, what's Crazio going to do? Crazio's going for a 10 and 9 racks, 9 double racks, depot, so wow. Some kind of BBS build, I don't know what that is. Oh, I do know what that is. And TSMU go for a very ballsy Nexus first, and only then a gateway, another gateway, but surely will be too late, because by soon there will be so many units. And Crazio stated that he would just go for a BBS build versus TSMU Random until he had good versus random capabilities, and TSMU was really flapping about. So that's mainly a thing that Crazio refuses to play seriously versus random for now. And then again, I would like to show you a Chris Cokes versus Woolybot. Let me see where it's coming to come from. And that mainly is because Woolybot isn't doing too badly. Of course, it took first place in the student division, and I thought, well, let's put it up against Chris Cokes, which is by now more than just a 4-pool bot. Oh, sorry, what's that? And have I got the right window? No, I haven't. Oh, damn. I had this one time before. This broadcast is really messy. But here we should be going again. And it happened to me once before that my browser split and I was recording the wrong window for the entire time, and that was really messy because I had to redo a 1.5 hour broadcast again. So I thought, well, I'll put the winner of the student bracket of the 2017 finals versus a very good Zerg and see what comes up of it. Now, Woolybot is by no means a complicated piece of machinery, well, compared to some of the other entrants. It's not. It does one thing well, and that is zealot play, and of course that's still pretty dangerous. Now Chris Coates going for a lot of Zerglings. If you look at the production tab, it's just going to be lings, and it's only got one hatchery, so you can see the minerals racking up a bit. And Woolybot is coming in there with a lot of zealots, And of course the Zerglings at this moment have got things well under control. The Zerglings have got speed. All the Zealots are moving back. It's a University of Alberta thing where they will be moving back and forth a lot. And Chris Cokes with 800 minerals in the bank is not really going to get any more purchase out of it. But for the moment the Zealots are on the retreat, and as long as they are, they will be, and if they are not, it's going to be a brutal beatdown. Oh, and there we go, that's a sunken, and that's the other hatchery, but that's coming a little bit late, because by now about 9 Zealots are advancing upon the position of Zerg, and it's going to be hell-ish to try and stop that. Lair nearly, well, started, and only one sunken. Workers coming off the line, sunken is dead, and there aren't really any Zerglings coming out, so that's not really the best play by Chris Cokes. And Gia Bot doing its one-base zealot thing, that's still very, very effective. Same can be said for the carriers of Thomas Vidas Sim, and of course Killer Bot. But Killer Bot is on an entirely different level, and I hope to be showing you that again now, because this is a reenactment of the finals, and these two Zerg players are really the finest in Zerg versus Zerg at the moment. And a lot of it will be build order based, so I'm not going to speed up the initial stages too much. Both at 9, and the question is, what are they now going to do? So we see a 9 Overlord by Killer, and of course the players called Marion Diveka, but the bots called Killer. And Cherry Pie is going for a pool. So 9 Overlord versus 9 pool, and then we see the pool and the gas for Cherry Pie, and some more workers, and that's very important because the amount of workers you can get away with will help you enormously in the later game. Now Killerbot at 8 workers at the moment because it's snuck in, and that's also very important. Another building, it's an Evo Bay, and Cherry Pie got a sunken in. So let's see how that's going to pan out. Cherry Pie at the moment 1 worker down, Army Supply both players nil, and Cherry Pie going for a round of lings, and both players are going for, will be going for speed, but Killerbot going for the +1 damage first, and that's also very important, and starting speed a little bit earlier than Cherry Pie. And now the Zerglings of Killerbot are going out on the map. Despite these upgrades, it's got the timing advantage, but it shouldn't really be going after there, and the first blood is for Killerbot. That's very important. These Ling versus Ling battles, one more Ling gets killed and one gets badly damaged, and now Killerbot going in there up the ramp, losing some Zerglings. That's really an unfortunate engagement, that's really bad. It threw away all the advantage it had, and now it's 1 sunken versus, yeah, you can't get anything done there. Cherry Pie going for the 3 or 2 sunken, then into a quick lair, and Killer, what's it going to do? +1 is not yet done. Speed will be done momentarily. Going for the expansion, I think that's the right choice, because with only 1 base and a quick lair, Killerbot can assume that this spire is going to be pretty late, and even then it's not going to be all that dangerous. But then again, Killerbot will have to stop the muters, which will be a problem of its own. Now Killerbot, what's it going to do? Going for the extra hatchery and for a nice batch of lings, and the lings could get something done. You can see the spire being morphed in a safe position, and another hatchery, so that's pretty good. No lair yet for Killerbot, and these Zerglings really need to get in there and get something done. Going after the first sunken sort of dies. The drones coming off the line, but these lings are not snappish enough to be able to kill the drones and not lose too many lives. And we've got the first pair of Scourge coming up, going after the Zerglings, but of course that doesn't help, but there will be muters as well. So Killer going for, and Killer's really getting stuck on its same build order, just lings. But then again, we've got muters versus lings, and that doesn't really help the Zerglings a lot. So if Marion Diveka could come back and give his bot an update, that would be much appreciated. For now, Cherry Pie has got his numbers with the build order, and if Killer doesn't really transition into anything but Zerglings, it's not really worth it at this point. Cherry Pie with the solid build order, and look at this building placement. That's duly part of luck, because these 3 Zerglings and the spawning pool are hard-coded somehow. and if it would have spawned in a base with the opening on this side, it would be rather exposed with the Spire. But for now, it's got this victory down pat, and let's hop into the next match, because we've got Egbert versus Madniks Terran, and Egbert, of course, from the University of Carlos III in Madrid, has been working so hard, and let's look at what it's going to accomplish. Going for a depot first, depot barracks at the other end of the map. We've got the identical build, just exactly the same, and then the gas. No gas yet here, going for another barracks and another depot. So Egbert going for the bunker just to be safe, while Madniks just camping the ramp and is going for the academy. Ooh, and the sortie out with a couple of marines, no medics yet, and I think that's pretty ballsy. But of course, oh, we've got Stim coming up from Egbert, that's good, Stim with medics. And this will be a very, very hard climb for these marines, but perhaps it's only to secure the natural expansion, which Egbert hasn't got at this moment. And if we can see both players starting, oh well, Egbert has got range done, and Stim is available for both players. And now with a Vulture as well, but that's quite a lot of marines with Stim, and Egbert really tearing the strip of the first hide of Madniks, which will have to come up with some kind of plan, because army-wise it's way behind, but it's got the natural up with the gas up and running too, and is making the transition to mech with one factory and even a science facility. So that's pretty good. Upgrade-wise, that is medic energy. Wow. Don't see that too often early in the game. And +1, of course, +1/+1 starting for Egbert. That's pretty good. And first the Wraith, there are some... oh, there is one turret available at least. And Madniks is going for an endless stream of units, has got the natural up and running, it's got a lot of workers, 50 versus only 20. And now we've got the siege tanks at in the park of Madniks, so that will be a stall order for Egbert to tear down. So Madniks really with the nice composition, but it's rather passive, and I fear that will it's just going to bite it in the ass. And now the tanks are advancing. Of course the high ground will be held by these marines. Oh, and that's an interesting position to take in natural. And ooh, look at this bio army go, stopping the tanks, beating them down, and everything that's being thrown at this huge raging ball of medic marine. Look at it go with the +1/+1, and of course it's being... that is the science vessel. So we've got medic energy and science vessel energy for reasons. Madniks going for another base and another one over here. Looking good, turning up the macro, but really ought to get something done, because if you get a 100 supply and you counter that with a... well, with science vessels and Valkyries, and even the Vultures won't be able to do too much versus that kind of bio play. And Egbert is really going for it, but it's just too much of a mess. And although Egbert is doing a lot of damage, the map is slowly turning blue, and that will be not in the advantage of the Spanish Terran. And Madniks is throwing away huge amounts of units and has got a lot of marines. Wow, that's really something. But then again, and even without tanks and without nukes, it's going to be a hard fight to hold it off. And the expeditionary force camping the natural will be killed soon. Madniks with the almost 70 workers, and this main will be out shortly. So this will be a little bit of a fight to see this Terran army mopped up. Or will it? Oh yeah, there we go. And the science vessel dropping, I just heard that. And slowly but surely Egbert is being worn down. And Madniks, look at this constant train of units, and look at all the mines. And Egbert playing well, but should place a little bit more emphasis on the macro. For now, I say GG. And Madniks, that's pretty well done. So GG to you. And then I should welcome another bot, and I should have really started with that, because having new entrants is always something to look out for. And let's see what it's going to do now. The bot's called Alice, and well, there is a song about that, but let's not get into that too much. Alice is by a student from Dortmund, from Germany, and that's about all there is known about that. Oh, sorry. So let's just go and see what it does. We've got a nice gas trick. That's always nice to see. The scouting SCV of Johan Kaiser. I know Johan Kaiser is that bot which builds a lot of bunkers and just puts marines in them and doesn't really do anything else. So that's ideal for new bots to show what they have got without putting too much pressure on them. And it looks like expansion first. So minerals mining, building buildings is going okay. Lots of minerals though. Might be a little bit snappy-isher and going for the pool. So that's good. Meanwhile, Johan Kaiser going for the barracks thing. Building its bunkers over here this time. That's, I think, a solid decision because that's really the path where the enemy is going to come from. Oh, and Alice, sorry Alice, I haven't been paying too close attention. So, 3 sunkens, handful of zerglings, mining at the natural. Oh, we've got some kind of tech coming up. Hydra Den, another sunken. So, the basics are there. We've got mining, we've got an army. Have we got upgrades and all? No, we haven't. Oh yes, we've got upgrades. We've got Hydra range coming up. And we've got a handful of Hydras as well. So army being built, and this is going to be the 3rd base. So for the time being, looking good. And here comes the invincible army with some Zerglings and Hydras. The question now is, what's it going to do? And lots of buildings being built in the main of Alice. That's very good, Alice. So, yeah, there you go. More upgrades, Hydra speed, Zergling speed coming up. And this looks like a lair, and I like that. And the fact that the army doesn't appear to be doing too much is secondary, because this is a very good setup to start building your bot. It's at 50, 60 workers almost on 3 bases, 4th base being started. Oh, and here comes the army. Here comes the army, and it retreated again, and I would like to see that again, because by perhaps the fight and flight micro I can deduce which bot it's based on, if any. Building placement is okay. Yeah, you don't really block anything in like this. And the 5th base being taken as well. Lots and lots of money in the bank though, so that's something which there could be slight improvement upon, but by now it's really macro time. It's Hydra, Hydra, Hydra all over the place. And you can see this army growing stronger and stronger. Upgrade wise looking good. The +2 isn't started, although there is a lair. And if you look at Johan Kaiser, it's just made a huge bunker field with a turret, handful of medics, and meanwhile it's just building depots, and all the bases are being taken by Alice, so Alice doing very well in that regard. Army is growing way out of control. Oh, we've got the +2 armor started, that's very good. And all the overlords are clustering in a small ball over here. 1 or 2 over there. Have we got any? No, all the overlords appear to be here. And I can only hope that no BM opponent, BM Terran, will either storm or irradiate this, because that would be really cruel. And that's a lot of lings. So the army is there, it's pretty good, but if it doesn't attack, the game will just time out, and oh yeah, there we go. Johan Kaiser just dropped off for reasons, and that was the game. So Alice is there, might be a little bit more aggressive with all this. That's a 127 supply army just sitting around. I say welcome to the show and see you improve, hopefully. And one of the bots which has been improving markedly is Pineapple Cactus. Pineapple Cactus here has faced Ice Labs, and Ice Labs of course from Japan, last update 2013. It's still pretty good, it's very robust and very complete, and I like having a couple of these older bots on the server that I can put newer bots up to the challenge, because versus Johan Kaiser all you've got to do is show what you can do, and versus Ice, for a bot like Pineapple Cactus, it's really test what you can get done And the first Zerglings are in the natural. That's pretty good. Not really killing themselves on this bunker. And Ice in a little bit of trouble. Now the Lynx pulling back a little bit. Could have been a little bit more deadly. But Ice is struggling, and that will continue until the natural is killed, I believe. And then it will retire to the high ground and try to get something done there. Now building a couple of more Marines, that's always a good decision. And sending over another SCV to finish construction on the natural. Meanwhile, no Zergling support for this handful of first Zerglings. But the damage they are doing is quite respectable. And Ice is stuck on one base, and oh, now the Marines coming out, trying to fend off the Zerglings. Oh dear, the worker transfer. This command center is really badly damaged. But now we've got 4 Marines, and Ice has this, well, it's pretty good reactive play to see, well, I'm under attack, I need more Marines before the factory is up. And so it will build more Marines with its one barracks. So pretty nicely done. And of course the command center is getting repaired. The first factory is now up, and the worker count in the main is nicely balanced. Gas worker being sent back to mineral mining or just not. But the first mutas are here already, but the marine count now is quite alright. And once Ice spots mutas, it will do the anti-air play, which is quite respectable. And Pineapple Cactus really doing well with the Ling aggression. Might get a little bit more effort in on the macro, because right now it's a 1 versus 2 base situation. Worker wise, Ice Labs 10 ahead and has already starting construction on the engineering bay, which will mean turrets all over the place. And if I'm not very much mistaken, with the factory it will soon build an armory and get a lot of Goliaths out. And of course, if you are going to do a 1 base muta play, you really ought to try and find the weaknesses in the enemy's armor and try to hit there. Because you could have flown round the back, killed a lot of workers. The same can be said for the main. You could just swoop in through the right side, kill all the workers. There's nothing in defense. All the defense is centered at the natural choke. And regardless of that, if you're just going to hover about, it's not going to work, is it? Upgrade wise, link speed, and that's about all we've got in this game. Now Ice has got the natural pretty well defended versus mutas. The Marines are moving out and killing the Scourge. The mutas aren't really, well, they are flying around nicely, and that they are I haven't really seen them fire a shot in this entire game. The natural started for Zerg could have been a little bit better, and that is really one of these points. A single Marine is chasing away all the mutas. They aren't really oh, and now they're in among the workers, so that's pretty good. And in among the Marines, but first the Marines, they tend to fly, or they do fly. But the natural starting, and Ice will be locked up, having been delayed in the first instance by these harassing Zerglings. That was really well done, and that's really granting Cactus the time to get things started. Oh, but with the Valkyrie now, this air army. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, with the Scourge and the Hydras, that's pretty well done by Cactus, but the versus ground micro of these mutas leaves much to be desired, and there is... I'd really like to see a bot like Steamhammer. Really, if one of the Zerg implementations of Steamhammer were to create the perfect muta micro and then spread that to all the other branches of Steamhammer. Oh, and these Scourge are really not on point. That was a very, very, very lucky Valkyrie. And now Ice is starting the third, and Cactus is, well, it's confused. It's got a couple of mutas, it's got a lurker, it's got some Zerglings and a Hydra and a Scourge, but it isn't really doing damage at this point. And the only thing I've ever seen it kill were workers and a couple of Marines with the early Zerglings. This is not the third, it's just some mutas, lots of defensive buildings, and as a bot it's got the capacity to do stuff, but the plan behind its movements, it's rather sketchy. And Ice, once you let it out of the 2-base situation on 3 bases, it's just going to do a lot. And Pineapple Cactus, what's it building? That's always a good indication. Lots and lots of overlords. That's really a lot of overlords. Lots of workers, the occasional lurker. Oh well, 3, 4 lurkers and another spore, and I don't know why it needs so many spores, but that's really a lot of defensive buildings and only 2 bases. Oh, third now started. But it's really not... oh, we've got the lurker field killing stuff, and these Scourge could easily take this, but they are not doing so, and the Irradiate will take its toll of 1 lurker sterling. Okay, well, there you go. So with the lurkers, keeping tabs on these Goliaths is good. If you burrow 5 lurkers in a close pack, they will kill a large number of Goliaths. Oh, and there we go. This Scourge thing versus... Oh, the Scourge thing as a whole doesn't really work. By now we've got 3 Valkyries. And this factory being built outside the range of the city is not going to get too much done. Going to get killed. Now Cactus could easily hit the third, and by the looks of it, it is trying to do so, but it's something's keeping it. And that's very strange. I still, with this very small army in the natural choke, it's got a huge anti-air army, but now the enemy's got a lot of lurkers as well, and that must be a problem. And here come the Lings, and Ice is really getting stuck on having... Oh dear, and now these 2 Goliaths are being cleaned up by the Zerglings. The Mutas didn't really land a shot there. Ice is really getting itself stuck on its building placement. It's the main is full, and it can't really get too much build anywhere else. And the third is now being under attack. So Pineapple Cactus with the 3rd base operational in a good shape. Might place a 4th as well. Ice only's got this 60 supply army and still trying to build workers. Got a lot of money in the bank, but ran out of building space. And this anti-air army by Ice is not really up to dealing. That's a lot of Valkyries. How many have we got? Small Peak, we've got 6. And we've got Defilers as well. That's pretty good. So despite Pineapple Cactus not really being the most snappish and decisive bot, if you are building Defilers, you get my... well, you get a kiss. I don't know. And I really would like to see where those Defilers... Oh, we've got one here. Let's look at the upgrades. We have got Consume. Oh, that's very good. So we've got Swarm, we've got Consume. And this might soon become a veritable nightmare for Ice, because it's got this anti-air army. It saw the Mutas first and then decided, okay, I'm playing something like Overmind, the bot which does only Mutas. And then Cactus switched back into this huge ground army with Lurkers, Zerglings, Hydras, and a couple of Defilers. How many have we got? We've got 6, so that's enough to be going on with. Unfortunately, they're being marched straight into the firing line and shot as primary targets by these Goliaths. Then again, doesn't really matter. It's so many units, and the main is running low, the natural's running low, the 3rd has been raised to the ground, and Cactus is really exploding. It's more conflagration of buildings on the map. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, but so many units, and Ice really can't do too much about that. Let's see if these Defilers come into play. Ice trying to take this base, but that's not really working. Oh, and we've got a very badly placed Swarm, but we got a Swarm. That's pretty good. And this Defiler isn't really consuming anything, so it will take a while before it's got enough energy. Oh, and this one's got energy. Oh, so another Swarm. Okay, that's a little bit better placed. Oh, and they are actually consuming things, so that is good. And Pineapple Cactus really showing promise here. Going in with another badly placed Swarm, but hey, what can you do? Will we see more upgrades? And a lot of upgrades by Cactus. That's pretty good. Oh, we've got an Ultra as well. Have we got Ultra upgrades? No, haven't got that. We've got the Defiler Energy upgrade. We've got this Defiler sitting in full range of the barracks. That's pretty good. No more Swarms, but at this point it doesn't really matter. It's 60. Oh, it's 84 versus 9 army supply. And oh, a nice Swarm. Unfortunately, there aren't any more Terran units to protect your Zerg units from. And the Mutas finally landing a shot in anger. That's pretty well done. So Pineapple Cactus again showing a lot of promise. And I like these tech switches, which can really throw an opponent off. This these Scourge are pretty badly micro. They should just be set on it and try to kill it. And no, this vessel still lives. I don't know what for. Oh, and there is a Hydra, and the Hydra takes it in the end. So that was the Terran base. GG Pineapple Cactus, showing a lot of promise. And there you go. So I thought, well, I'd like to show you TSMU Random versus Cherry Pie. Cherry Pie, of course, is a veritable monster, and it has got build order selection, which enables it to do pretty well. Its build order selection is... it won't immediately change after losing one game with its specific build order. It will just evaluate the build order's performance over time, and I really like that. If you'd like to see an example of that, please watch the finals of 2017, which were pretty good, despite them being filled with Zerg. And TSMU Random is this game going to play Terran, which will be a tall order versus the Cherry Pie monster. And of course, conflict of interest, full disclosure, TSMU is of course working on Cherry Pie, but at this point I don't really think it's wrote or Cherry Pie contains a specific build order versus TSMU, but that was also the reason why TSMU was disabled during the 2017 finals. TSMU now going for a handful of Marines, beating back the initial Zerglings, going to kill the Overlord as well if the Overlord isn't very careful. Yep, there it goes. And now we've got 2 Vultures out, and Vultures can be pretty effective versus Zerglings, especially with speed. But neither Vultures or Zerglings have got speed at this point, but still these Vultures will be pretty deadly, as can be demonstrated here. Especially if they're operating in a pack, it's just not fair for the Zerglings. So let's keep an eye on what's happening behind this. TSMU is going for a command center in. The Naturals got the money. The Vultures haven't been touched if everything goes right. No, they haven't. And Cherry Pie is going to have to come up with a plan B. Natural starter for TSMU Random, and lots of buildings, very few combat units actually. And if you see how many Zerglings your Vultures are killing, I'd be inclined to build a couple more and find if the enemy defenses will allow me to kill more Zerglings and perhaps some workers too. Then again, if you're ahead, get more ahead, get some macro going, but I don't really... Oh, these Marines are badly placed. We've got a bunker coming up, that will be nice, and if it's done, perhaps these Marines will scoot over and try to enter it. No, they won't. Cherry Pie collecting a large army, and you really shouldn't get out of touch with the enemy army for too long, because TSMU's only got this handful of Marines in a bad position and a couple of Vultures. Zergling speed is getting started, Spider-Mine's getting started as well. And now the Zerg... Oh dear, there we go. Oh, this is going to be very bloody. And... Oh, there we go. Oh, poor Zerglings. If these Vultures weren't lethal enough with the Spider-Mines, they're doing quite well and going for a Valkyrie despite there being not a single enemy air unit out on the map. Only SUVs coming out to have a look as well. And of course these Valkyries can't get anything done. They are going to find an Overlord, which is good, but by now Cherry Pie's got 2 Hydras, which will enable it to be rather dismissive with the Valkyries. And TSMU is, well, it's not really, and it was a veritable monster the day it hit the scene, but then you saw this development where the other bots got better and better, and well, this Vulture action is pretty good actually, even with the versus Hydra thing. And there we go. Oh, that was a very close snipe. TSMU doing pretty well with the Vultures, and that's mainly because its worker count is about double, so it's got a huge economy compared to Zerg. And Zerg at this point is really struggling to get any kind of army together. It's got only the Zergling speed. It's not no longer in possession of any Zerglings, so that's really a wasted upgrade. And TSMU with the, not with the field repair, but the back at home repair, doing quite well as well. We've got 2, we've got more Valkyries coming up, and I don't know what that's about. I don't even know where the Valkyries are at the moment. Oh, we've got 3 of them here. And 4, how many are there? I know, there are 3. And TSMU is obviously expecting some kind of air switch, but it's right now it's got 4 Valkyries. Yeah, 4 of them. and might easily do away with all of these overlords in the main, but isn't doing so, and Cherry Pie is somehow stabilizing because these Hydras, even without upgrades, can be pretty effective versus Vultures. They only have got to be careful not to wade into a mine over there. Okay, well, never mind. And TSMU now with the tank and a lot of Valkyries. That's really the wackiest build order of all times. And appears to be scouting out a third base. That's always good. But the ground army of TSMU is really puny. It's only a handful of Vultures and one tank and a couple of Spider Mines. And the Spider Mines do claim their victims. So TSMU in an okay position. Cherry Pie really low on the workers. Only 14 still. And it keeps into constant contact with the enemy, but the enemy is so much stronger that just bleeding units left and right. And if the enemy's got the double economy, and will soon have more than double the economy, now with 2 siege tanks, a lot of Valkyries and a handful of Vultures, it looks like TSMU is just going to push the nose of Cherry Pie right in, and that will be very unfortunate for Cherry Pie. And now setting up shop at the bridges with the one tank and the other tank in the rear. That is going to be a hard position for a Cherry Pie to come back from. And of course TSMU with the third operational worker transfer coming up and more production being added. I think it's on a roll to secure victory in this map. Now that's one of the reasons why Cherry Pie isn't all that high and TSMU is doing okay. Versus a random player, of course, it's hard to select a correct build order. And that's the basic kind of learning that Cherry Pie has got at this moment. So that may be one of the reasons that I haven't really got the time nor the inclination to show 10 replays of TSMU Randy vs Cherry Pie. Would be a nice experiment. If you've got the time, look it up on the replay page to see how Cherry Pie is performing versus TSMU. Because if it's only got this build order learning, either it's got to specify it per race, which can take a while, or it will just try to select the winning build order without regarding TSMU's race, and then it's going to be rather messy. So every overlord that pops up is immediately shut to pieces. TSMU rolling, 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 and I'm going to call a GG and hop into the game before last. It is ForceBot versus Andrei Kurdimov. Both bots have, Kurdimov has received an update recently. And ForceBot, of course, I like it, being the best exponent of the Go project at the Technical University of Delft. So let's see what it's going to do. Kurdimov going for the 2-gate, and ForceBot going for the pool first, then a natural handful of Zerglings. But versus a 2-gate, you are going to need a lot of Zerglings. And that's really where I should like to see some refinement in a Zealot build. We just get the +1 versus Zerglings. You kill the Zerglings in 2 hits instead of 3, and that's going to be such a boon to your play. And now it's just going to run. And Kurdimov, the entire army is running, and if these Heinz Zealots were, yeah, they should be regrouping and not just run all at once and only regroup once you've reached your own base again. Third gateway coming up for Kurdimov, and ForceBot going for a couple of Sunkens, and I don't really like that. But versus Zealot play, it might be an okay decision. Will we see Zergling speed? Yeah, we'll see Zergling speed. There we go. Retreating a little bit. And the Zealot thing is going to get stronger and stronger. So you might really want to think about a plan to deal with that. And Sunkens only get you so far. I'd really like to just see a quick lair and then a couple of Muters, because if this bot is only going to do Zealots, with Muters you can shut it down pretty handily. And if you've got this Overlord over here, you can see there is no gas. So it will only be Zealots, so Muters or Lurkers could deal with that easily. And ForceBot meanwhile going for an in-base hatchery, I like that. And fighting with the Zerglings and the Sunkens in tandem, not losing any or too many Zerglings, that's really good. And Kurdimov really forgetting that these Sunkens are there, and this front Zealot is going to pay the price this time around. Yeah, there it goes. Oh, and the other one just lives. That's pretty... oh, it's coming back. So that's really unfortunate, and you should really be trying not to do that too much. It's going to cost you the game. And slowly but surely, Forcebot is building up his worker force and then running in the middle of the map with the Zerglings, occasionally losing one, but then again not too many. Upgrade-wise, nothing happening at either end. Natural starter for Kurdiamov, finally no gas yet. And that's really beyond me. Third base starter for Forcebot. Forcebot finally with the lair. And where are the Zerglings? The Zerglings are back in the main base, but the Sunkens and the Zerglings may just hold this, or will the Zealots break? The Zealots will break. And by now, Forcebot is under a lot of pressure. Its naturals under attack. Lots of Hydras coming up. But everything which will pop up now will be smitten in relatively small numbers. So that's really unfortunate. And of course, the natural of Kurdiamov is up. And there is an assimilator, so it will have access to technology. And Forcebot is really taking its time now, sitting back in the main with a handful of Hydras. Will the Hydras have upgrades? No, we're going for Overlord speed, so build order-wise it's pretty bad. Combat-wise it's pretty bad as well, because you ought to micro a lot more, and Kurdiamov in the end is just going to overrun the Zerg, it looks like. And the worker transfer going off to this base. Well, that's a valid decision, trying to get your workers to safety. The main base is in tatters, the last Overlord is dead, and the larvae being mopped up as well. And now there is a huge Protoss army out on the map. It's being torn from A to B for reasons. And the question is, when will it find the enemy base? Or will Zerg try and get some kind of renaissance going? Third base done by Kurdiamov. And we've got some goons now as well, so that's really a huge army, but it's only Zealots and goons. And for some reason, every time they do appear to be approaching this Zerg base, they move back to the top right. But every time they inch up here a little bit closer, here comes the new base. Oh, there was a lurker, but with the observer there, it's not too much of a problem. And Forcebot has grown catatonic, it's got the minerals, it's got the supply, but it isn't able for reasons to restart itself, so it will fall to Kurdiamov. Kurdiamov, well done. Last look at the upgrades. No upgrades at all. Oh well, why would you? So that's the GG. And now the last game of today will be Ironbot versus Crazio. And of course Crazio still the number 1, Ironbot is still the number 2. Let me vote this, select this by ELO rating. And it's got quite a bit of a lead on TSMU. And TSMU is really racking up the points, the random version, because Crazio insists on doing a BBS build, and versus Cherry Pie it is in an okay position to kill some Cherry Pie as well. Well, that doesn't really make any sense. But it's got really a good performance versus Crazio and Cherry Pie. And Iron is really locked in a fierce battle with Crazio for number 1. Hasn't received an update in a while. Used to be receiving updates all the time, but last update right before the tournament started. And Egbert told me he hasn't really got the time to work on Iron too much. Isn't abandoning it, but well, you know how it is. Developing an AI takes a lot of time, and if the time is running out, it isn't really well, it's hard. It's hard as a coder to see your bot fall. And Ironbot now really containing Crazio at this point. And Crazio with the workers and the one vulture remaining with the repair beating back, and with the Goliath. So should be in an okay position now. Iron though is up 5 workers, a little bit of army supply. Crazio's got a Wraith, and we see that again. Oh, there is a Wraith for Ironbot out as well. And Crazio is running, and that's very unfortunate. That way you're just losing a Wraith for no reason. And without any kind of coherent plan, it's just 1 unit versus 1 unit, and if 2 units happen to be in the same area, they will have an advantage. And that's how this game is snowballing out of control. Crazio trying to secure the natural area. Ironbot doing things off 1 base for a long time, as we've seen it do time and again. And Crazio with a little bit more expensive units, more Goliaths, more tanks. and in an okay position to deal with these vultures, which are still the mainstay of Iron Bot's army. But I think with some tanks and Goliaths you should be able to take the natural relatively quicker. Crazio, Iron now saving up money for the natural, and Crazio is late with his natural, and that's going to cost it a lot of pain, I fear. And Iron has now got this contained setup at the bridges with the tanks, and there is no natural for Crazio. Crazio trying to do everything off one base. And it's up on workers. The army is okay, still not using this high ground. That's really something I would like to see either Iron or Crazio do, or TSMU, because as one of the big Terrans, if you've got this high ground thing packed down, you'll have such an advantage over any other Terran bot for the intermediate future. And because, oh well, the natural's finally up for Crazio, but the third is started for Iron as well. And Iron is slowly running away with this game. It's got the contain, and even though it's losing units there, because Crazio's got this beautiful air cover, Crazio should really be a little bit more careful with these tanks, repairing them a little bit quicker. And well, that's a lot of, really a lot of turrets. One here and the cover would have been complete, but that's really a lot of turrets. Third now up for Iron, and this is a 3 versus 2 base situation. You can see the supplies growing further and further apart. And although Iron really hasn't got a plan of killing the enemy, it's just doing this boa constrictor thing where it will just try to contain you, feed that contain, repair all its units. You can't see hardly a damaged unit in here. We've got one vulture over here, and if it keeps quiet for a bit it will get repaired momentarily. And Crazio's got all kinds of units flapping about, but it really ought to take a third base. Iron's already taking its fourth, and if you've got this contain, then you're in a prime position to just extend your lead by taking more and more bases. And even if you trade unfavorably, or in the case of Iron, if you don't trade at all, because Iron could be so much more aggressive. It could just try to do a drop, do an air raid, do some kind of harass, try land a nuke somewhere, but it's not doing that. It's just going for the all-out mech play. And Iron is approaching max. Crazio at 110 supply, and although it's got the better tank micro with the, oh, that was an accident, that tank on high ground, with these floating buildings, which do provide it with a lot of air sight range. And Ironbot is trying to keep out of siege tank range with this flying building. So every time this building is hovering over here, the tanks are retreating a little bit. Iron is not losing a thing, and that's allowing Crazio to get a little bit of supply back into the game, but the main is mined out. Crazio's main is mined out, and now all the SUVs are in the natural, which is not, well, it's okay for the time being, but there is no third for Crazio. And the only harassment actually being done at this point is by this one Wraith, which is paying the price. So Crazio should place more emphasis on taking a third base. Iron is now maxed, stacking up a large bank, and Crazio is approaching max eventually as well. And that is bad news for Iron, because if Crazio gets rolling in one time, breaks this contain, it could roll over Iron's army if this contain with all the mines and the turrets and the tanks is lost. And Iron now banking on a lot of raids to do the job for it, but Crazio's got things well in control with a couple of matrixes, a couple of turrets, and the occasional Goliath. These tanks are doing a lot of damage, and you can see Iron actually losing about 25 army supply. And this Marine ought to be a little bit more careful, but in general Crazio's engagements are still better, and these Wraiths are losing a lot of hit points as well. So Crazio is still in possession of a good card, but the trump card of Iron will be that it has got the map, and it's got so many resources. It's building factories all over the place. At every expansion it's building factories, and it can just replenish everything so very well. This Wraith is going to be cornered and killed. Crazio has got this thing well under control, but it needs a third, and it will need it quickly, because already it hasn't got any gas, and the natural is mining out. So there you go. If you are not going to be committed to breaking this contain somehow, And Iron right now has really abandoned this position. Crazio is moving out on the map and is clearing the minefield. Supply-wise, this was 110 versus 200. Now it's 160-ish versus 100. And the Goliaths are killing a lot of raids on the battlefield. So that's very good for Crazio. Crazio 160 now. And really needs to protect with a front this position to take a third. It needs a third base. It's got the minerals, hasn't got the gas. And Iron is losing a lot of units. It must be said, it's got the macro, it's got the production. If you look at the production tab, this is Iron, this is Crazio at this point, mainly because there is no gas. And still Crazio is hanging in there with 150 supply versus 200 of Iron. The floating buildings are coming over again. That's just in time. But Crazio needs a third, and that cannot be emphasized enough. It is not building a third everywhere, anywhere, and it's now going for a long distance mine. But that is going to be not the solution. It will only leave your... Oh, that's a nice kill on this new base of Iron Bot. And another front up here with Crazio. It needs that new base, it needs it. Either here it can protect it. Iron is trying to push in here with a lot of tanks, but this one tank and this one tank here are holding it, and one tank more for backup. Crazio finally found the courage to build a third base, and it can only hope that it won't lose too many units before that's operational, because it was at 160, but because it has no income. It had no income and has had no income for about a couple of 5 minutes. In a TVT you can't let that go on for too long, especially if you've got Iron on your doorstep with 200 supply army. And Iron has now taken possession of this base, shifted Crazio's 2 tanks out of it, and with the front over here is approaching the building line of Crazio's. And although Crazio's now got a third and a fourth, the fourth is not protected at all. The entire map is awash with Iron, and I fear that Crazio is not able to come back from this position, because it's had this total lack of income. Oh, but it's doing a lot of damage at this new base. Look at all the units being killed, and Iron is having to produce so many units to keep up with the destruction of Crazio. Crazio under siege at the bridges, under siege at this base, but it can sort of, with the tanks, push back Iron Bot over there. This base is only protected by 1 siege tank, but Crazio's got 2 bases. Oh, but Iron has found a weakness in Crazio's armor. Torn down this base entirely, and Crazio cannot get out. Crazio on the brink of death with only 1 tank defending the base versus all these ravenous vultures. A lot of workers are being lost. Crazio not being careful enough with these workers. They're being sent out for bad reasons. They much better... Oh, and now the vultures storm the tank. So the 4th is down, the 3rd is down. This base is in the firm position of Iron Bot. Crazio has got no income. A little bit of gas coming in still. But Iron, the boa constrictor bot that it is, has prevailed once again. And Crazio, although it was on the brink of staging a huge upset, clawing itself back from this long contain, in the end looks like it's going to fall. 64 army supply. And let's look at this desperate last-ditch effort to hold its position at the bridges. Iron still 200, lots of money in the bank, and going to take kill after kill. And although Crazio's got this good position with the raids and the tanks, every tank it loses, every unit it loses, it cannot replace, and it will fall because Iron's got the map, has nearly got 10k in the bank. And this handful of tanks is like watching the Alamo. And Crazio almost had it down to a victory, but just not quick enough with the 3rd. And the gap in income was too much. Crazio lost about 50 supply of army in the end game before it got up the 3rd and 4th. And then Iron shifted it out of the 3rd and the 4th. And although it was pushed back at this base, eventually the numerical advantage of the tanks was too great, and Crazio is falling. What a defense though. So in the end, Crazio will fall, and that is the matchup as now is Iron beats Crazio. Crazio occasionally loses to TSMU Random, and well, Cherry Pie is suffering a little bit from TSMU Random and some other bots. So there you go. This was this week's broadcast. I hope to see updates from the top bots for next week, but of course you can't really force them, and it is a long and hard process to do so. Crazy tapping out. I say goodbye as well. Hope to see you again next week. For now, goodbye.